change here, but I actually should have made it, was TVMed 530/NAVMed P5010. That needs to be corrected to NAVMed P5010 TAC 1. So the Triservice food code, again, Triservice, can be identified as all of these three right here because it is a Triservice thing. TVMed is a technical bulletin for medical, Army, 530. NAVMed P5010, Chapter 1 is a Triservice food code. Air Force Manual 48, TAC 147, TAC IP, that is for the Air Force.
So
all the same thing.
What did I say about yesterday about usually when they're mentioning food and prevent stuff? Who's usually the agent that's over that stuff? Army. Keep that in mind as we're going through this chapter.
So all these different instructions are the same?
The same manual.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually a good way to put it would be nutrition standards and chemoprophylaxis. So when you guys, I don't know if you guys have already gone through it yet, but when you go through your chemoprophylaxis one, you'll see in the top right corner of the chemoprophylaxis for military personnel, there will be TVMed, there will be NAVMed, or ViewMed, I believe, and there will be Air Force Med, because it's all Triservice.
Yep.
So they all are all the exact same thing. So if you are on the advancement exam and you see TVMed 530, it is a Triservice food code. Okay. I don't think I've ever seen Air Force Man on there before.
Hold on, we'll have her question first.
Question?
I guess that was my question, is would they ever ask us a question of certain manual, like in Air Force or Army's manual?
They usually don't. The only time they're asking about other services when they're talking about responsibilities, and that's where I'm trying to tell y'all right now, especially for IMS and food, it's going to be Army as your executive agent. But I will say, because I have a really good photographic memory, there was a slide that I covered in chemoprophylaxis that listed all three of those manuals. It was one of the bullet points of the Air Force, Army, and Navy.
Yeah, it's the chemoprophylaxis one that you'll actually see.
But a Navy exam will probably not mention an Army instruction. The only other instructions they mention that aren't Navy instructions are like your CFRs or your DEA forms, right? So your Department of Defense forms or your Code of Federal Regulations.
Yeah, the CFR is pretty big. And there's actually a lot of them in the terms in the actual glossary portion of the chapter 1. It's not going to take very long. There's a lot of terms in here that you don't really have to know, but I'm going to only talk about and ping the ones that you really should probably know. It's really about it. It's a very broad section, so basically the glossary and the terms is half of the manual. Literally, it's like half of the manual. I'll bring it in later. You'll see it. It is a lot. And actually, we're doing a revision. It was just revised in 2019, but we're doing a revision again. Mr. Webb, Lieutenant Commander Webb, he works at the Navy Marine Corps Force Health Protection Command. It's myself and like 10 other PMTs that are actually helping out with the revision. So we're doing the actual revision yet again for it.
So, and he'll tell you as PrevMed, the appendices and glossaries sometimes matter more on there, and that's where they pull a lot of content for these tests for the PrevMed sections.
Yeah, Appendix F is like the one that shows you like all of the descriptions of what you need to know. Those forms are, man, it's a lot. All right, accredited, adulterated. I really wouldn't worry about anything of that. Accredited means that it's a program for a food protection manager certification program. There really isn't a thing for that one because you guys, am I doing food on this one? You guys covered food already?
I don't know if food is on their bibs.
Was that only for the first? I think it was only for the
Yeah, they had a bunch of food on the first one.
Yeah, they actually had to go through the food manager training one, the 4-hour course, annual stuff. Not for you. You don't worry about it. Advanced preparation, that's any food that's par cooked, so anything that's prepped prior to. Par cooked is partially cooked in advance. I remember par cooked, really about it. ANSI, the American National Standards Institute. That one is important, and I've seen it in basically every single advancement exam that I've been at, that I've done, all 17 plus of them. And I actually wrote one down specifically for you guys that you guys should write down. And that is going to be ANSI Zulu 87.1. Does anybody know what that is?
87.
Zulu, ANSI, so ANSI Zulu 87.1. iPro. I've seen that one on the advancement exam. That is what your eye protection must be rated as in order for it to be certified in the military. So if you're ever greenside or you are like, you go to the range, your iPro actually has to have that on a little corner in order for it to be authorized. that actually has been proven to protect against shrapnel. When you see like the pictures that people post on the socials, like, you know, people have like shrapnel over their face except for their eyes because they're wearing those high-tech freaking ESS glasses, so the old school M frames, the old school Oakleys.
And don't forget, those count as one of your 2 required pairs of eyeglasses.
Baffle, not really on there either. Balut, you might hear chiefs joking around about it because it's basically like a fertilized egg that Philippines like to eat. They sell it in California. Wouldn't worry about any of that. Certification number, I would remember that one because you do have to remember that shellfish does have control authority. The National Shellfish Sanitation Program, and why? Because salmonella is transferred a lot with like oysters. All right, because a lot of it's raw. You're literally eating raw stuff.
This meat is raw.
It's, I mean, I eat oysters too, and I probably shouldn't as a BMT, but I think they're delicious. Little.
I'm afraid to try them.
Disgusting. If you ever go to Seattle, like they have like a duck up there. Yeah, that's gross. But I would remember that the certification, that shellfish does require certification. Basically, no things not. Nothing with this. CFP, Conference for Food Protection. That one I would remember as well. And that's going to be the actual, like, all the people, it's a huge conference that people have, and it's when they actually discuss food safety. Our environmental health officer, Lieutenant Lee, we actually started doing these training evolutions where we actually, she'll show us these conferences that are actually up there. They talk about like the cost of foodborne illnesses and, you know, things that it can happen, like when Jack in the Box was sued in the early 90s for not cooking meat all the way, because like 3 people died. And like it was insane. It's this huge conferences that people get to do. A lot of the professionals get to go to them. I'd love to go to one. Most of you should get, you know, swag, and I love getting free stuff. But unfortunately, they're not going to send H1 Martinez to one of those.
Didn't they do something like that with the grade of meat for Taco Bell too?
They did actually, yeah. And the same thing happened with IKEA. Then when you go to IKEA, their meat balls used to be made with horse meat. Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, I still go to IKEA. Like,
You gotta think about it, it's not an American type company, so they're gonna have different types of animals for their food.
McDonald's has like a big lawsuit too.
Huh?
McDonald's.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Has what?
They may have a lawsuit too.
McDonald's has lawsuits all the time. Spilling hot coffee on their laps, all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, it's like conscious.
Rats in their chicken nuggets.
I was Whataburger. That rat that jumped into the fire. That video was gnarly. All right, confirmed disease outbreak, where we had talked about 2 slides prior to. So that's going to be that it's which laboratory analysis has identified the causative agent. All right. So again, confirmed disease outbreak is confirmed food outbreak is going to be confirmed by lab analysis. The Army has a manual. It's a textbook of medical history, like an actual military medicine. I have them in my office. Like I think I'm the only one that has them. They're massive textbooks, and they have like the requirements for actually doing like a foodborne outbreak. It's a lot. It is a lot of stuff. Like you literally have to go out there with a lab tech and little cups, and people are peeing and pooping into them, and like it's like it is a lot. It's heavy duty stuff, and unfortunately we can't support that here. That's why the NEP used to it.
Army also writes the emergency ward surgery manual that's usually under bibs too. They usually have huge, detailed manuals when they publish them.
And actually, if anybody's interested in it, you should write down Borden Institute. You can get these books for free. I have both the chemical and biological warfare ones and the preventive medicine ones, like a lot of them. And they'll send them to you for free, absolutely free. They're really great actually because they're all like civilian scientists. It's fantastic to get like those references because you never know when you're going to need it. And if you don't, then you have a cool looking little office space with a whole bunch of books, right? Dealer, that's only important for the Shellfish Control Authority. Not really anything important on that. Disclosure is important, but I've never seen it on the advancement exam. That's basically like when you go to like a food preparation place and there's like a little sign. You go to the galley, the chow hall, it says like, hey, this is what's on it. This is what was made with the allergens, this is things like that. It's basically the disclosure in a nutshell. I would remember that. Enterohemorrhagic Escherichia coli, E. coli. That's actually what it's called.
Which is where, if you know the prefix and how to break down the word, it makes sense. Entero means what? What's enter mean? Inside, right? Hemorrhagic means what? Bleeding. So bleeding enterically or bleeding from the intestine inside.
So if you ever see, I saw it in the advanced exam several years ago, but it's like you take enteric, like aspirin, means that you take it and it breaks down in your stomach. Like it requires, like it breaks down in the system versus it being just like dissolvable. Yes?
Just for anybody, I'm a lab tech, so for anybody who's confused about the O157 to H7, that's, the O just stands for anything on the body of the bacteria, and the H is the flagella. So just like a different subspecies of E. coli. Now that's like easier way to remember it, because a lot of people just look at that and they're like, what does that mean? That's it.
Thank you for that. That's actually sort of like a little flagella, a little floating around. I love doing the gram staining stuff. I thought that was really cool. I don't get to do it often, obviously. It's paperwork now. It's at H1 in the office. But if you ever get a chance to do it, like go OJT with them because it's really cool stuff. I actually like. I appreciate lab techs like a lot. It's really, really great. And if you remember the serotype right there, that one was reportable. But overall, if you're going to have E. coli or Shiga toxin S-Tech, which is, that, I would write that one down as well. The Shiga toxin producing E. coli, I would write those two down or highlight them if you have them, and just remember those two right there.
So to mention, to go off that Armed Forces case definition instruction goes over all those different types and says which types are reportable.
Yep.
Like they'll go through inhalation and contact and all the different types of ways or types of diseases.
And this is why if you suspect it, it's still reportable, regardless if it's suspected or probable. Because labs are going to take some time, right? So until you actually get those lab results and lab findings and it's confirmed, you still have to report it within that 24 to 7 days.
I have one on deployment with S-Tech.
With actual S-Tech.
Mhm.
I think the worst is norovirus, but it goes so quickly that you can't really catch it. You just can assume that it is so fast. My wife's like, what are you doing? Why'd you puke in the steak? I didn't know what was happening. It's, ugh. Yeah, I've never been that sick before. Thanks, Cerise. Food and water risk assessment. It's basically done by the veterinary personnel and food people. Who has the vets? The Army. Who handles the food? The Army. They're the ones that handle basically the MREs, all the food, everything like that. There's a MRE testing facility actually at Camp Lejeune. We got to test them all, like they literally just test them all there. It's pretty cool actually. And if you didn't know, whenever there's like an emergency and they evacuate the White House, the vice president goes to Camp Lejeune. No idea. So I guess Kamala Harris was there, excuse me, the Vice President Kamala Harris, as I was. Food defense, I would remember these terms right here: Food and Drug Administration, the USDA, DHS, and DOD. DHS is Department of Homeland Security. I hear that term all the time because my wife works for DHS. She works for FEMA. She's an archaeologist. So I hear about that all the time. DHS. They don't coincide, but we all work together. We have representatives that work together. Grade A standard, that's specific for milk. Grade A pasteurized milk ordinance, and that's the grade that all food has to be. The milk has to be. Grade A, like when you get your milk, it's got to be grade A pasteurized. Pasteurized meaning that they heat it up to get rid of all the bacteria, they filter it, because the milk industry doesn't want you to just drink raw milk. Why would you? I have no idea, because there's a lot of blood and pus and gross stuff in there, but people do. Hey, right on. Hermetically sealed container, so this is basically anything that's actually been sealed. And the reason why that's the case, why we in the service, we only use things that are hermetically sealed are because of, can anybody tell me what bacteria can grow? Botulism, correct. And anything that's home canned or home cooked, this is why you don't buy dented cans. Like don't go to the used food store. There's one in Seattle that I remember when I was in Birmingham, it's called, I can't remember what it's called, but like you go and you get dented cans for like 10 cents off. You don't want to do that because if that seal is broken, Clostridium botulinum can actually grow on the edges and botulism can kill you. It can be weaponized as well. I would remember Clostridium botulinum as well, why you don't give honey to children, because honey is typically raw, can carry botulism. Imminent health hazard, so that's anything that can actually hurt someone. All right, so if somebody is sick or has like open sores on their hands and it doesn't look like, let's go back to the whole bubo thing. If they have like a buboes and they're growing on their hands, they're like, oh, I'm gonna serve you food. That's probably a health hazard, right? You don't want to be eating stuff like that. I would keep it light. Sores on the face are typically not a thing. I did have a case years back where they tried to get us to remove a person who had it was a herpes outbreak on her mouth. Like it was really bad. And they were just like, she can't be cooking food, she can't be doing that. I'm just like, oh, she can. Like, she's not putting her mouth on it. Like, and there are sores. But they still remove there. Medical authority, that's going to be the actual commander of the medical treatment facility, tactic unit, or any representative that's done down below. So whoever the medical representative is, it could be an IDC. It could even be a PMT, but typically we're considered the permanent medicine authority. So even if you have an HR or HA who's a private med tech going out there, you are the authority. And if you're
Respect
a PMR,
my authority.
if you go through one of our courses and you are a PMR, you are the authority. Because it's in writing that you are the preventive medicine authority. NSF, National Standards Foundation, they developed the ANSI standards. I would remember that as well. You go home, if you live out in town or anything like that, and you actually look at like your cooking knives, a lot of them are going to say they're NSF rated, right? So they've been tested to meet the standards for the able to cook and use. Not really anything in there. Pick, I would remember that person in charge. That's going to be whoever is the person responsible for the food facility. pH, this one is written in a little hand that I'm going to talk to you guys about real quick right now too. Any values from 0 to 7 are going to be acidity. So like I think coffee is a pH of 2. And then anything that's 7 to 14 is going to be alkaline. Pure pH, perfect pH is going to be 7. So I would remember these ranges, which they're going to have a little gifts for me to remember these by. PHF for any potentially hazardous food, any TCS food, so any time and temperature controlled food. The thing I would really take about this one was the temperatures of 41 degrees. I don't think it's on this one, but we'll talk about it a little bit later. I don't really think it's been on the exam before, but the temperature range zone is going to be 45 to 135.
It's been on the exam before.
Yeah. So basically, any bacteria can grow between 45 and 135 degrees. Sometimes 41, it depends. Everything has to be frozen to 0 degrees, not 32. 32 is freezing, right? But when it comes to the food world, it's going to be 0. Freezers have to be at 0 or below. And it gets really chilly testing those things out when you're actually doing like surveys, because you're just frozen all day. Just like you mentioned a little while ago, CFRs, that is your water quality. 40 CFRs is going to be the chapter. Just remember CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations. Safe Water Drinking Act. That happened in the 1970s after the rivers were on fire in freaking Ohio. Risk, we've all done ORM, I'm not going to do that. There you go, 41 degrees, correct, as I was. Those are going to be your temperature danger zones. All right, bacteria can grow there. It's either going to be thermophilic or cyclophilic. Think about thermophilic, it grows and thrives in the heat. Cyclophilic, cyclophilic grows in the cold. I have seen that in the exam before. And thermophilic, or mesophilic, is going to be anything that grows in that area. And that's what can hurt you. I would just remember those right there. Those are going to be safe temperatures. All food, if you've ever done it or you're going to do the temporary food handler course, that's what we're really going to pay on. Maintaining those temperatures either at, below, or above. Variance, the only person that can do with the variance is going to be your medical authority. Basically. So your IDC is the one who can say, oh, at a minimum, your IDC is the one who's going to say that. That was it. Pretty straightforward. There's really not a lot in there that you guys need to know. There are a lot more terms.